Parenting is one of the most powerful, emotional relationships we can create. What would you do to feel that emotional connection? Would you rob someone? Would you consider stealing? Would you murder? Lisa Montgomery, desperate for a child, was willing to remove a child from the womb of a pregnant mother. Bobby Jo Stennett was a new mother. She was excited and 8 months pregnant. In their Missouri home, she and her husband Zeb conducted a dog breeding company. She also worked at a local manufacturing business in Maryville, but with the baby on the way, the couple needed all the money they could get. Bobby Jo had spent years watching her dogs give birth. She'd even witnessed friends and family members give birth to lovely children. After a year of marriage, it was finally her turn. Her happiness was nearly too much for her to handle. Bobby Jo was eagerly talking about her soon-to-arrive baby, even at 8 months, when the pregnancy was beginning to take its toll. An internet chat room was one location where she expressed her joy. It was called Ratter Chatter, and it was intended to be a meeting place for those who were interested in rat terriers. While chatting online, she got to know Lisa Montgomery, a user who was from Kansas. There was so much in common between the two women. They were not only going to become parents soon, but they also had a mutual love of rat terriers. Lisa mentioned that she was also expecting a child, as Bobby Jo had been discussing her own pregnancy. However, this was not true. Lisa Montgomery loved kids. This is the reason she was so excited to discuss her pregnancy in her online chats. Bobby Jo actively promoted her online company when the topic of business came up. Every week, her company successfully found homes for dogs, and a large number of individuals arrived and went. For this reason, on December 16, 2004, she greeted a stranger with joy and open arms when she opened the door. Sandy brown-haired Lisa Montgomery was a middle-aged woman. She didn't wear much makeup and wore glasses. But she wasn't Lisa Montgomery that morning. She had approached Bobby Jo under the false name of Darlene Fisher and showed an interest in purchasing a puppy. Bobby Jo, being the polite host, opened the door. She didn't recognize the person standing in front of her. Darlene was the only name she knew for the woman, and she knew she liked dogs. They were all by themselves in the house. Bobby Jo turned away as she led the visitor through the house and toward the dogs. Lisa took advantage of her opportunity. She waited, wielding a pink neon rope, until Bobby Jo was distracted, and then she struck. She squeezed the rope around the pregnant woman's neck. Bobby Jo couldn't break free no matter what she tried. She could feel her life being suffocated. Her hands held the baby, who was still kicking in her belly. Bobby Jo died, but Lisa wasn't done yet. She approached the still warm corpse with a knife in her hand. She rolled Bobby Jo into place before getting to work. This was a surgery, and it was bloody, a criminal surgery. She cut deeper and deeper into the deceased woman's belly until she reached the womb. Blood leaked out of Bobby Jo's wounds. Lisa felt her hands become bloody, but she kept cutting with the knife. It was too late to stop. She found the baby, still alive inside its lifeless mother. She cut the infant free by slicing away at the woman's flesh and then cutting the umbilical cord. Lisa pulled the fetus from the womb while drenched in blood. She held it close to her and felt its heartbeat. She then walked away, leaving the dead woman in a puddle of her own blood. Bobby Jo's body was discovered by her mother a few hours later. The sight of her dead and mutilated daughter devastated her. Lisa Montgomery was returning to Kansas as the officers sped to Bobby Jo's house, their sirens flashing. She drove with the infant in her arms. Trying to explain the sudden presence of a baby would be challenging for most women. Lisa, on the other hand, was not like most women. She'd been lying to her husband and everyone in her small town for months. She told everyone who would listen to her that she was pregnant, even though she didn't appear to be. Kevin, her husband, had bought the lie. Although this was not Lisa's first child, it was his. She had 4 children from her previous marriage, so she might have known more than he did. Lisa was browsing for ultrasound photographs when she was online with Bobby Jo. She printed the image and carried it around town, claiming ownership. Meanwhile, the cops issued a warning. When they got to the scene, they promptly identified the problem. There had been 2 attacks, yet there was only one body. What happened to the baby? They contacted the FBI in the hopes that the baby could be discovered alive, since they were concerned that the baby had been taken across state borders. Darlene Fisher, the person who had booked the appointment to get a puppy, was the only suspect. Despite Lisa's phony name, the authorities still had access to Bobby Joe's computers. They called upon the experts. They found the account of the person visiting the home after getting a tip from someone who had been watching Bobby Joe's discussions on the chat room. They followed that person's IP address, which they linked to a phone number in an address. They tipped them off to Kevin Montgomery. The cops arrived at the Montgomery home less than a day after the murder. Lisa was inside, cuddling the day-old baby, surrounded by her confused but joyful relatives. The Montgomery family's life was forever changed in a matter of minutes. Lisa was arrested, and the baby was returned to Zeb Stinnett. DNA testing confirmed that it was the deceased woman's child. The baby was saved, and people were in shock. Bobby Joe's family was devastated, but happy to have the baby back. The Montgomery family was scared to learn what Lisa had done. Communities in Missouri and Kansas were outraged, and the media continuously reported the crime. Lisa's background was revealed to the world during the trial. She grew up in an abusive household. Her stepfather had been raping her in secret for years. She became addicted to alcohol as a result of her abuse and neglect. When Lisa's mother discovered what was going on, she threatened her with a firearm. Lisa attempted to flee the situation when she was 18, but her only option was to marry. However, her marriage and following marriages ended in much more abuse. Lisa went through tubal ligation after having 4 children, which made her sterile. Despite this, she had often claimed to be pregnant. Her lies had gone much further than anyone had anticipated on this day. The trial was brief. Lisa was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of execution. Lisa Montgomery was executed by lethal ejection on January 13, 2021, at the age of 52. The baby, Victoria Joe, is now 18 years old, living with her father. The family are doing their best to protect her privacy. Her quest for a child went to unusual lengths. She murdered 1 woman and permanently damaged a family. Being a mother was a matter of life or death for Lisa Montgomery. Hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe and like for more stories like this.